For my Artists of Change project, I have decided to talk about an artist very near and dear to my heart, Green Day. Beginning as a small punk outfit in the late 80s, Green Day broke onto the mainstream radio with their smash hit album, 1994's Dookie. It encapsulated the feeling of the era, a general poppy carelessness with underlying themes of boredom, angst, and drugs. However, while this is an excellent album, it's not the one I am here to discuss today. That album would be Green Day's most radio popular album, 2004's American Idiot. By 2004, Green Day had begun to wind down in terms of mass popularity, and while still maintaining a status as one of the most successful bands of the era, they weren't the pop-punk legends that they would come to be known as today. Especially in my generation, American Idiot is an album that we all listened to. The songs were on the radio constantly, whether it was the title track, American Idiot, the visceral protest track, Holiday, or one of the soaring power ballads, Wake Me Up When September Ends, or Boulevard of Broken Dreams. These songs dominated the charts of some of the most formative years not only for my generation, but for America in a post-9/11 society. And that's what this album is about. It's an anthology cataloging the general despair of post-9/11 America, and a call to action to improve upon not only what has been lost, but what has been ignored. For millennials, we have grown up in war. Every time you turn on the news, for as long as I can remember, there's been a headline story about a car bomb in a country more often than not in the Middle East. And much in the same way as America was angry following 9/11, so is nearly every track on the album. But it calls attention to it in such a way that calls not for anger towards the Middle East, but rather anger towards the ineffectiveness of our political leaders. At the time, this was George W. Bush. Many speculated for years that the American Idiot of the title track was actually referring to Bush, and lead singer Billy Joe Armstrong actually confirmed it earlier this year in an article he wrote for Clickhole. There are also several references throughout the album criticizing American politics following 9/11. For example, the line in Holiday, "Pulverize the Eiffel Towers who criticize your government." This is a jab at the aggressive stance taken by American foreign policy officials toward France following their opposition to the U.S. military involvement in Iraq. The main story of the album, however, focuses in on the rebellion of the main character, known simply as the Jesus of Suburbia, and the two characters who most influence him. Jesus states himself that he is the son of rage and love. This is a line that I find resonates with me, and I have found many millennials agree. The same generation that grew up with the characters on Sesame Street or Barney preaching to love one another also grew up in a time when other channels on TV spewed hate in the form of anti-Islamic rhetoric. The rage is embodied in this album by Saint Jimmy. Jimmy is representative of Jesus' dark side. He abuses drugs and takes his anger out on those around him rather than internalizing that anger to spur change. In contrast, there is Jesus' new girlfriend, What's-Her-Name, who leads her revolution based on love, or more specifically, sex. For a generation that has grown up in a more and more digital world, there is more exposure to sex than ever, especially under the ever-popular sex sells marketing mantra. I guess what I'm trying to say is that Green Day found a way to encapsulate the coming of age for an entire generation and point them in a very specific trajectory. To this day, Green Day remains a powerful voice in the music community against the very ideas of hate, intolerance, sexism, and prejudice, most recently in their open vocalization against current President Donald Trump. If there is any band that encapsulates the current movement away from intolerance and prejudice, it's Green Day.